All right, we're back with the jungle. You got Matt and Jackson on. We just lost by 3 points to USC, 74-71 in LA at away game at USC. If you're looking at the YouTube, you'll notice I'm wearing a USC sweatshirt. My girlfriend is a USC alum, and it's a very rare house divided situation. And I said if they won, I'd wear the sweatshirt, and if we won, she'd have to come on and say something, and we lost. So here I am in a USC sweatshirt that I'll be taking off in a minute. Another funny thing is it's the first day of Hanukkah, and shout out to all our Jewish listeners. I don't know how many of them there are, but if you're out there, shout out. And happy Hanukkah to our coach, Bruce. I know he was celebrating on Twitter, and sad he couldn't. And Leor, yes. I'm sorry he couldn't get a win today. And also, that brings up the next point that sadly, for the first time, and I chastise myself because I've chastised other podcasters for this, I was not able to watch the game because I was at a Hanukkah party. And so today we're going to try something a little different. I have lots of questions about why we lost. I want to know what happened. And last podcast, I didn't make it either. And I was like listening to the podcast immediately after thinking like, finally, I need to know what happened. So I thought this podcast, everybody's schedules has been really difficult around the holidays. So I said, you know what? I'm going to get on and take it like an interview with Matt here and ask him, what happened? Why are we losing? So here's Matt. And Matt, say if you want to start with anything, but I'll have lots of questions. I think our listeners have a lot of questions too on how we lost this, why we're losing.
Yeah, like whether you watch this game or I know a lot of people were busy. The four of us that kind of do this podcast, like I had to watch late. Somebody else had to watch late. Like everybody kind of the busy season. Did get to watch without knowing the result, which is always important to me to get to enjoy, like see what's actually happening when you don't know who's winning or who won the game earlier.
Do we have if we're getting in the groove, of sadly, we know we didn't get together last year, like our groove of lost podcast, but I think we've kind of decided on this, for my first question, if we're starting with the questions is, what is the single biggest reason we lost this? Like stat wise, is it an injury? Is it, try to pick one, see what you can do.
One, it's easy. It's the most turnovers we've had in 4 years, 23. And I would say if you let me choose two, the other thing would be Wendell Green Jr. being hurt. He didn't play well. He wasn't effective. He was a real liability on defense, which led to some wild Trey Donaldson minutes, and he played actually really well. But ultimately, the turnovers were a problem. And it's not just because our point guard was hurt. Everybody was sloppy. And I would say if you didn't watch, like Auburn played more like the Bruce Pearl team we want. Like they were aggressive. They were running the court. They were pushing the pace. They tried to be assertive, but they just were so out of sorts at times, and everybody kind of made their mistakes.
Six players with double-digit turnovers. All I can base it off is box sheet here. We got 6 turnovers from KD, 3 turnovers from Flanagan, 2 from Trey Donaldson, 2 from Chance Westry, 3 from Wendell Green, and 2 guys had 1, and 4 from Jonai Broome.
Well, so 23 turnovers. I want to point out a couple of things. So Wendell started both halves, and he gave it a go. He actually looked okay for a while, but ultimately, defensively, he was just too much of a liability. So let me just tell you, Jackson, we played 4 point guards in this game. Four.
So who we had? We had Wendell, Trey, Chance, and Zep.
Correct. So how that worked, Trey was clearly going to get a bigger role. We agreed on the last pod that he had earned it. He was ready. He was ready for the occasion. He kept us. He hit multiple threes. He was confident. He was much better defensively than Wendell was able to tonight. And so that was good. Here's the problem. Trey got like 4 fouls in 10 or 12 minutes of playing time. So he had 4 fouls early in the second half. Wendell, I don't know if hopefully he didn't re-aggravate it, but the coaches just refused to put him back in after his first rotation in the second half. Trey has 4 fouls. So we go to Zep running point most of the second half, which actually went okay. But
0 turnovers.
Hang on. They tried to get Chance in there. Chance played 1 minute and turned it over twice, and they had to pull.
Oh, my God. Please, no one go back to our first episode where we just bragged on Chance Westry so much. I mean, we called it out in the episode like, oh, there's been times before where you brag on a player and then they really get you later. I don't think we've been burnt this bad, man.
It's
weird. 1 minute? 1 minute. I mean, what is
Well,
going on?
he wasn't going to play. I think
Why wasn't he going to play?
the bigger picture is they, for whatever reason, he was not in the rotation in the first half. They were shortening the rotation a little bit, and then they tried to buy some minutes for Zepp to rest because Trey's got 4 fouls, Wendell's not coming back in, and it was just a disaster. So that's troubling, especially for a young player, right? And I'm sure their goal was to give him some games off and let him kind of reset and just like see what happens because Trey's playing maybe better than they expected. But man, you have to throw him out there, and it was just rough.
That's insane. I can't believe it's fallen apart so badly like that. We're falling apart going into SEC play, which is the opposite of what we were hoping right here. These 2 games, we're hoping to kind of use these as a ramp. Is there like any silver lining right now? I mean, I guess we could get in that later, but this sounds brutal out here.
So we got most of the bad stuff out of the way. The turnovers were the main reason Auburn lost this game, 23-12. I mean, getting doubled up like that has not happened under Bruce ever. Again, I think we were more aggressive. I think we were more confident. We shot 35% from 3. Trey hit multiple threes. Flanagan hit multiple threes, I believe. Zepp hit multiple threes. Maybe Flanagan, he hit 1. But I mean, we got offense from guys. Jalen continued to be great. He only got 5 shots. Another thing we should point out, Jalen came down. He got pump faked in the air, and somebody undercut him, and he went down really hard on his shoulder, and he was holding his right shoulder. So that we don't know. I don't know as of this recording how bad that is, but he could not finish the game. So the final few minutes, no Jalen, no. They chose to play Broom instead of Cardwell. So no Cardwell, no Wendell Green. Very weird. But having said that, Jackson, we were down 6 or 8 points 3 different times in this game. We had some good runs. Our offense was better. Our offense did get better in terms of shooting and the quality of shots we were getting, and we looked more like ourselves. That's the silver lining.
Surprisingly, 12 points from Trey. I was looking at this and I was just thinking, how did we play this badly from a stat sheet, standpoint, and then only lose by 3 away at USC? And I don't think USC is necessarily a great team, but still playing away at a P5 opponent like that with a team that's got talent. So we kept it close. I mean, how'd you see us keep it close even with all that happening? You said just good shooting?
Good shooting. We went down early. We went down 6 or 8, like I said. Trey hit like 2 back-to-back, a 3 and a mid-range jumper to kind of cut that back and keep it close. We actually led at halftime by 4. We came back. The defense got so much better. Here's the problem. Our defense is not consistent enough, okay? The second half, you would have hated watching the second half. We got 8 fouls in the first 5 minutes. So USC only won this game, in my opinion, because the refs started calling things tighter, and then we got 3 or 4 really 50-50 fouls. And it's on us. We were playing really aggressive defense. You could tell Bruce had gotten into them about we have to play with better energy on defense for our stuff to work. And they were putting hands on guys. They were playing physical. Yeah. And eventually they started calling all the fouls. The defense from, I would say, 5 minutes left in the first half through the rest of the game was Auburn what we need to play. But there were too many mental breakdowns early in the game, and that's what allowed USC to score as much as they did.
Are we going to have trouble, you think, throughout the rest of the year with, we know at this point, the only thing we can really hang our hats on is a tenacious defense, is an all Ball 10 defense. At least we're hoping that way. But in the new era of college basketball, and we asked Bruce when he was on about how much more fouls are being called, how you can't touch players, and when all you are is a gritty defensive team, can you actually keep that going? I mean, tonight, clearly it bit us,
Yeah. Well, and we just our margin for error is so small. We have to we can't miscommunicate switches and leave guys wide open. And USC shot the ball well too. They shot 46% against us, 31 for 3. They got to the line more than we did. USC was an impressive team. They went to overtime with Tennessee earlier this year. USC is going to be a tournament team. There's no shame, like you said, in losing by 3. I think as we talk about this whole game, you'll probably come back to that point in your mind, like, oh, well, man, we were playing that lineup, and at the end of the game, and we had a chance, and we were down a lot, and we kept clawing back, is what I'm trying to say. So I was proud to see like the swagger. Ben and I talked about that last game. We haven't looked like that Auburn style of play. We looked more like it today, in my opinion. The turnovers were too much, and we just couldn't quite get over the hump to take the lead late.
we'll probably do an SEC preview, but what is the number you have in your head that we have to keep teams to win these games? We scored 71, and we've seen us keep other teams to lower than that. Do we need to keep teams below 70 to win games below 75? What are you thinking?
70.
70. I think this might be a good SEC preview section. Like we could do it. We'll see how many games we can win with teams that score any more than 70. It's probably gonna be like 2 or 3, right?
Yeah. No, every game's different, but like we don't need to get in many track meets offensively. And I think today kind of showed that. This was probably we shot the ball pretty well. We pushed it. We kind of played with USC a little bit, kind of the way they wanted to. But I still don't feel comfortable with that. Ultimately, the second half ended up being a rock fight. The only reason it was 39-32 in the second half was because of all the free throws on both ends, and Auburn was trying to quicken the game late. It was actually a defensive slugfest with both teams turning it over. Nobody could really hit a shot. So the second half actually looked more like what we wanted. But ironically, the turnovers were just too much. I mean, too much to overcome. Really, both halves, they were.
We have an interesting stat line that I want to hear about here. Jonai Broome with 31 minutes. I think he led the whole team. Yep, by a good bit with 31 minutes. Led the team in scoring with 16 points, but 5 personal fouls, 4 turnovers. He got 2 blocks, but overall the team only got 4 blocks, which just seems to be an interesting trend that we've missed out on some of that, and it seems to be a big part of personality. 8 rebounds, 7 of 8 from shooting, 1 of 1 from 3. Is that his first 3 all year? Yeah. First 3 in his college career?
Yep, they left him open. He drained one.
Congratulations, Jonai. I was saying he could keep taking that 1-3 a game until SEC play, and he hit one. So now I'm extending it. You can go through the Florida game. You hit another one, we'll keep extending it, But tell me about Jonai, and tell me about his relationship with Cardwell also, because I've heard some talk about Cardwell.
Okay, 2 parts. Broome was good. He had if you watch this game, it didn't feel like Jonai led the team in scoring. It did, but he had some good putbacks. He had a couple finishes on the fast break, a couple decent moves. Nothing spectacular, although we'll call Ben out here if he's going to listen to the pod. I think I was reading through the group text because I didn't watch the game, so I was catching up later on what people said, and I think he missed his first shot. And he's like, all right, guys, I just don't know if I can watch Broome anymore. He's missing all these shots. He didn't miss a shot the rest of the game. But so he's good, and he battled for us. He led us in rebounding. USC had some big guys that were fairly impressive. The blocks, he had one sick block, like met a guy at the rim, like perfectly timed. So there were some bright spots. The problem for us and for Bruce, I think, is Jalen and Jonai are 2 of our better weapons at this point with what the roster is. And we've talked about this for years. The offense just isn't wired to get the ball consistently to those guys. You know what I mean? We're doing it more than we ever have, but we're not built that way. Our guards are going to have the ball in their hands and they're going to do things. And I think that's what this coaching staff is having a bit of a hard time with right now.
Do you think we can get more out of Jonai? I know we've talked about how he's been consistently inconsistent. Are you seeing him grow? Do we want to throw the ball in more to him? Do we want it to come to him? Like, clearly with Wendell out, with some of these other guys, no one's stepping up necessarily that we can tell. Do we want to push the game towards him? Like, what do you expect from him in the next couple games?
Man, it's hard to tell. It really is. Like, I've been as big of a supporter of his as possible. And some games you see this and it's like, wow, like that's really what we need on an offensively challenged team. We need him to do all the things he did. But then you have games where he just looks so either rushed or just doesn't seem super comfortable at this level yet, playing a better competition. So I'm fascinated. Like what we saw last year with Walker, I think was unbelievable. Like what he did as SEC play ramped up as he got. No one should ever expect that from anyone ever again, because I think that was that special. But I really, really, really think Broome is a huge key to, like, can this team weather the storms that they're going to have to endure the next couple weeks with the way the roster is feeling right now.
With some of the talk about rebounding, I believe it was the Memphis game that had a lot of rebounding. Even Georgia State had some issues. We won the rebounding battle 32-19, which is kind of surprising, because I wanted to bring up the point that with the block party, I think there might be an issue with when we go for the block party every time, when the big man's always up in the air trying to get the block, he's not there to get the rebound. but clearly bounced back tonight. I don't know if you saw, if this is too much to look at from one game to another. It's something I'm interested in. Did we go for less blocks and go for more rebounds? Are we still trying to block part? I mean, 4 blocks a game for today isn't great. We've not been trending the way I want to with the block parts. I have to look at our big time stats, but just overall the rebounding, the blocks.
Yeah, good point. We're still in first as of today in the nation in blocks. So even though it's calmed down a little bit, I think we have a false sense of how many blocks we're supposed to have in a game from the last couple of years. I think we're playing similarly, but you're absolutely right. It's a great point to mention. Make sure everybody's like, and I'm not saying people don't know this, but when a shot blocker comes out to challenge, that leaves the middle wide open. So sometimes you get your best shot as an offense when a shot blocker goes to block a shot, even if they don't, if they don't fully swat it, it might go to your guy and he lays it in. So the other guys off the ball have to be ready to jump in and help when that happens. However, the problem is, this happened a couple of times today, the guys off the ball are like KD Johnson and Zep Jasper. So like, good luck under the basket trying to like help defense when our shot blocker goes for the block, if that makes sense.
I'm seeing a man on the USC team here, Boogie Ellis. I've heard the name before. 28 points.
Yep.
Who's guarding him? What's happening? Is he just that great? 35 minutes. Tell me about Boogie Ellis.
Boogie he was a good player, first of all. Impressive to watch. Played almost the whole game. They had 3 guys that almost played the whole game. He got hot early. He hit a couple really tough shots. Like, I never really felt like there were a couple missed assignments. A couple times he got out in transition, but he hit some really tough shots. He got to the line 10 times. He attacked pretty well. Kind of an all-around player. He hit from 3. He was 80% at the line. Turned it over twice, which really isn't that bad for how long he played and how much he had the ball in his hands. He actually got 2 fouls in the first half, sat down, and we made a 14-2 run to close the half, in part due to that. He came back for part of that, but he was a good player. Really good.
35 minutes from Boogie Ellis and 38 minutes from Drew Peterson, a guard, white guy right here.
Yep.
That's crazy. 30 minutes. Looking at these minutes here for their starters, 34, 31, 26, 35, 38. This is the kind of game that our platoon is supposed to outlast, right? These are the something. I mean, maybe that's part of the reason we kept it within 3. But I'm just wondering sometimes, we got so hyped up about this platoon ball, and when we play these little mid-majors teams, it really mattered, and it seemed to be a big deal. Maybe later in the season it will be. Are you feeling like the platoon situation is still happening? I mean, you said we clearly fell back with chance minutes. Wendell wasn't playing as much, so maybe there's more, but I don't think anybody on our team played. The most was 31 from Janai. Nobody else was in the 30s. So theoretically, this should have been the game that we rushed them, right?
I think part of it, I think Bruce's strategy with the depth is it helps you as the season goes on more than in any one game. Like by the end of the year, if you've got some fresher legs, it might help you there. Tonight, we could not rattle USC. I think USC deserves a lot of credit for it. We really came out with a defensive intensity. Now, I think our effort was great defensively. Our execution was really bad early and gave up a lot of points to them and got USC started well. But the effort was there for the most part. And USC wasn't really fazed by it. I mean, we turned them over 12 times. That's kind of an average number for us defensively. We just didn't give them. They handled the pressure well. I would say that. And then the times where it looked like we might have something was when those touch fouls and really 50-50 calls that there were 4 or 5. I threw my remote on a couple of them, and I don't really do that. There were some tough calls that we took in the second half, but I don't want people. We have our own major issues. And I think if you're going to watch college basketball long enough, you know that the refs are going to be inconsistent. It's frustrating, especially when it happens in the middle of a game. And the first half, I don't even think we put them in the bonus. It had less than 6 fouls the whole half, and we were playing the same way. And then the second half, first 4 minutes, it was just 7 or 8 fouls. And all of a sudden, they're shooting on every time they call something.
The annoying part of these refs, and the funny thing is if, I didn't get to watch, I'm going to rewatch. Sorry, guys. I know it's annoying, but if Matt is throwing the remote about the refs, then you have just avoided an absolute rant from me, because I don't hold back on this stuff. We're fans. It's a fan podcast. I will go in on the refs. And so it sounds like it's one of those classic college basketball, annoying as hell referee situations where the game starts getting a little out of hand because they didn't call it quite right at the beginning. And so they try to do these makeups. They're like, all right, let's get this game back in control by me. And they start calling the tic-tackies, and it all comes down to how quick which team adjusts quicker. And it sounds like we're the ones that paid for it, getting a lot of quick fouls early in the second, and USC didn't. And it's gone the other way before. We've been in the other situation where the referee starts clamping down and the other team gets a quick couple. It does feel like overall we don't do well when the ref changes it up because we're a lot more tenacious, a lot more ambitious, a lot more aggressive. And so I just really feel like we get bit more often than not in this situation where the ref changes it up. And you wish, I don't know, maybe I didn't play college basketball either or whatever. I wonder if the ref comes out to him and at least could voice that maybe coming out of the second half, or like, hey guys, I'm going to start calling this. Like, I don't know if that's on us, on the ref, or whatever, but that's one of the most frustrating referee things they can do.
Tight whistles do not favor Bruce's team. They never have.
Well, but it's not just the tight whistles. It's when they change to tight whistles. It's always like a couple minute period where we have to figure it out. And we usually take 3 or 4 fouls in that period. And depending on who the player is, depending on how many, if it's Wendell getting 2 or 3 real quick, a complete game changer. Some of our key guys gets a couple quick ones in that little period or whatever. Is there any person on this box score? I'm doing it by the box score, but is there any player on here that you want to talk about that maybe the box score doesn't say indicate what you want to talk about, but something that stuck out to you visually,
I think Wendell shows just that he didn't have it. He traveled, he practiced a little bit. I think he wanted to play. It's going to be really interesting to see, they'll have a week off after the Washington game before the SEC. Like, is he going to play against Washington? I lean towards no if they sat him in the second half tonight. We'll find out. I'm trying to pick out a guy that Zep really played admirably, having to move over. He played the most minutes he's played all year. He settled us in the second half, hit a couple of huge threes. Him and Trey hitting threes is a great testament. That's what Bruce Pearl's teams have always done. It's the guy off the bench that's confident enough to take the shot and make it, because that's supposed to be part of Bruce's thing, right? And we just haven't seen this team show that very often. So I'm really encouraged by how Zep played.
Zep is shooting 33% from 3, averaging that right now, but he's only averaging 3 points a game right now, which is frustrating. But I'm surprised it's only 33%. It feels like he always hits every other 3, just doesn't take enough of them. So it's interesting that it's 33%.
The guy Chance, we talked about. Johan hit a great 3 from the corner that was open off of a Zep pass, I believe. Hit it. Literally, that's the only thing he contributed in 10 minutes at all. He's there. He's trying. It's just, we've talked, not to go back to our argument, but it's just they're just not ready for whatever reason. Flanagan was better than his shooting numbers look. He had some really good moments. Because, again, the lineup at the end of the game, Jackson, just to be clear, we had it was either Trey or Zep, depending on offense for defense, because Trey had 4 fouls. So it was Trey or Zep. It was KD, who, if you look at his stat, we'll talk about him in a minute. It was KD. It was Flanagan. It was Chris Moore at power forward because Jalen was hurt and Johan wasn't playing, and then Broom. So it was a very odd. Chris Moore hit some big free throws for us down the stretch.
This is really awful, honestly, that it's one thing that Johan and Chance have not turned out to be the stars we were hoping they would be. Even a couple games ago, you probably, if you listen to the deep episode, I was arguing play them more so we can learn more about them. I think even in those minutes, I think ultimately Matt was right. They weren't showing anything, and they aren't showing anything, and it's not like helpful to force them into any more of the play. But man, not to be not stars, but to not even be helpful as a backup when injuries go down, that Johan can't fill in as like a doable guy, better than Chris Moore at power forward. You would think you could be at least better than Chris Moore at power forward, as much as we like Chris Moore. It's just out of position for Chris Moore. Yeah.
Be fair. Johan played his normal rotations. It's just at the end of the game, Bruce didn't want to put him at power forward when Jalen got hurt. So your point is valid, but it's only at the end of the game when he moved.
Well, it's both of them. Clearly he didn't want to play him late when Jalen got hurt, so he's clearly not even good enough to be the backup on it. Like, now it's just Chris Moore's the backup if things go down.
Johan's the backup. Closing lineups are just different. But Johan's and then getting his minutes.
But then on top of that, the whole Chance Westry thing. I mean, he was the backup point guard just like 3 games ago. I don't know if you got the message boards. I have my love-hate relationship with the message boards. Hopefully you can we could talk about it next podcast if that was supposed to be a suspension of some sort, maybe, or something. That's why he didn't play, or if this was, they didn't think you could handle it or what. I know
Oh,
KD,
Chance? No.
Yeah.
Chance, there's nothing. That's a coach's decision.
Wow. That's how bad it's gotten. He's literally just not playing because he's bad. He can't even play at the 2 or 3. Is it because he hasn't been able to learn the 2 or 3 because we thought we were going to push him to point guard? Now we're all in on Trey being the backup point guard.
Look, I think the reason they wouldn't play Chance tonight if they didn't have to is because Trey is now in the lineup and they're playing 10 guys. Chance would have been 11. Like Trey wasn't playing, previously. So that's all it is. And I think if I had to guess, maybe they wanted to give him this West Coast trip, maybe to just like reset, keep practicing hard, like don't stress, like we're gonna try this and you're gonna play, don't worry, but like just take a breath and step back after your surgery and after trying to rush back and play 3 different positions. Let's calm it down for a minute.
In this preseason, and even when we talked to Bruce, we talked about changing up the starting lineups, changing up these different rotations, using this out of conference as like the first, like we've always used the out of conference a little bit to figure things out, to figure out who needs to be where, who's got what. This year, we thought for sure going in, this would be the most wide open starting positions and backup positions to see what was going to happen. Now it doesn't really feel like we, planned on making it this wide open, but it is absolutely wide open, and we are being forced into making it wide open. And it's sadly, instead of this guy's playing so well, he's taking it from somebody else. It's everyone's or several players are playing so badly. We have to we're plugging holes instead of like having people rise and climb up,
Well, and to further defend our point in that interview, the starting lineup hasn't changed, but man, you hit the nail on the head. The minutes and the roles are way too open for what you would want after 11 games. Again, like everybody listening to this, hopefully our fan base is getting a little better with this whole basketball thing. Like if Auburn turns it over 3 less times, they probably win this game, and everybody's like, "Hey, we got some momentum. We won a game at USC. Like we were really close. It was a 1-point game with 3 seconds left. And if, here's a hilarious, did you see the end? KD tried to miss and made a free throw.
Oh no, I didn't get to see that. I tried my best, like walking from the subway and back, but no, I missed that one.
So KD's at the line, down 3, and USC did a good job, by the way. We had the ball twice, down 3, bringing it up, and they fouled us. They didn't let us get a 3 up, which is the smart play. I don't know how teams don't do that more. So he goes to the line, makes his first. We call timeout to set up how we want to attack the offensive rebound. And then KD shoots this. It's a little higher than usual, try to get a soft bounce off the rim, and it just goes right in. And he's just like, cursed. Yeah, he's so
Speaking of free throws, 79% from free throws. What was Ben's number that if we can reach this number, is it 70%? He thought we could win everything. And we got 79% and still lost. This team is breaking all of our, expectations. We'll see about this whole, I think Matt's right, about 70 points for if we can keep teams below 70, we should win almost every time. But anything above 70 is going to get really risky. Can I, maybe this is a personal thing. Maybe this is a fan base thing. I want to hear about Dylan Cardwell. I think we thought, especially with how Jonai is not really like the star. I mean, if he was the star, you would expect him to play 31 minutes and Dylan to play 9. But since he's not really being the star we thought he was going to be, I thought we'd do a little more 50-50. And the way Dylan's been playing the games I've gotten to see, he's been playing well and in control and looks pretty decent out there. Maybe not a great offensive guy. Maybe that's why Jonai's playing. But do you believe we should play more minutes for Dylan? Do you believe that this is, how do we use Dylan? What's going on?
I do feel a little weird about that. And look, I mean, this is where shout out to people who listen to Bill Simmons' podcast. It's the most listened to sports podcast out there. And he always says, I used to play basketball, and it's kind of a joke because he played like rec league basketball. I used to coach middle school basketball. Okay. And sometimes there's a kid at the end of the bench that at the end of the game, you're like, oh man, like I feel like that was probably a little wrong. Because you're right. Most of the season, it's been much closer to 50-50. It's never exact because of foul trouble and stuff. But I mean, I do think it felt even in watching the game, in the second half, it was like, I just haven't seen much of Dylan. Dylan did his thing. He hit his shots. He got 5 rebounds in 10 minutes. He made a couple of great defensive plays like he always does. I think he could have played more, but I think Bruce is struggling with Broome has an offensive skill set that we clearly need to score more points. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dylan's averaging 17 minutes a game. So the fact he played 9 is odd. So I didn't know if there was any kind of particular thing for here. So you might be right. It might just be kind of rotations got wonky, things got weird with injuries, and we just looked up and we didn't play him another rotation or two that we would have expected.
I'll be honest, we all love Dylan and we think he's like just the perfect, college basketball player in so many ways from a fan.
Well, and we had such low expectations that when he does things now, we're very excited for things that maybe would be just average for Joe Nye or even less than average. But we see it and we're like, man, look how much better he's getting. So you wonder if we're overestimating him as fans.
Well, I agree with you. I think he's played really well. And I think he deserves a little more minutes than this. And I would also say this for you who didn't watch the game. He's a great teammate, but he's competitive. And we heard his goals when we interviewed him. He thinks, like a lot of these guys do, like he's going to do everything he can to try to get a shot at the NBA or overseas or whatever. He was not thrilled, I don't think, that he did not get in. I don't know how long it was, but the whole end sequence of the game, he was not really in until Broome fouled out late. So, that's interesting. And I guess we should talk about KD too. Like,
that's about to move on to KD. I want to know twofold how he played this game, and then how was his bounce back from his suspension, and any other things you heard about the suspension over the last week.
He was very quiet offensively in the first half, almost like he was, I don't know, maybe he just was trying to be a good citizen or whatever. And then when things got dicey, there were just some really bad turnovers. And I don't really mind as much the 0 for 5 shooting or missing his 3-pointers. He did get to the line and make 6 of 7 free throws, even though we wanted to miss one of them. He did have 4 assists. He did share the ball, but just it's hard to have 6 turnovers in 26 minutes. I mean, that's just.
How were the turnovers happening? Were they bad passes? Were they trying to push the ball up the court too badly?
Everything you could think of. It was the classic spread of what you would have, if you didn't watch this game. Like, just imagine all the ways KD can turn it over. Now, he was, I don't know. He didn't look like he was pressing. He didn't look like he was any wilder than usual. It was kind of normal. He was upset with the way the second half was officiated, which I think we all were. But he did make some plays. He got us some looks. He's still that guy that's willing to attack the basket when nobody else seems to be willing or able to. I just think USC was a long team. Maybe we haven't talked about that. You didn't watch. USC had all these long guys. Peterson's like 6'6", 6'7". Boogie Ellis is that 6'5", 6'6", something like that combo. They just had a bunch of long arms. They played kind of a zone at times, although Jalen was carving up that zone, getting the ball in the middle.
Well, did he do that against Syracuse last year too? Both him and Jabari?
Yeah.
Great. Got a zone buster.
But man, and again, I think I see Bruce trying, and Jalen did get in a little bit of foul trouble that was kind of BS, but like, we've got to get Jalen more than 5 shots in 27 minutes.
He's got to want to get those 5 shots too, right?
Yes, he does. And we talked about that, but Bruce is going to have to do with him what he did with Chuma.
Oh, no. That's not Bruce's strong point. He's drawing up plays for certain guys. And
we're not talking about any drawn up plays. Bruce can control the offense as much as he wants. We have certain actions to get certain guys the ball in certain spots. I think Bruce might have called every one of Jalen's 5 shots today. Like, that's how, maybe 3 or 4 of them. He has certain actions for that power forward in our offense that Jabari's played, that Chuma played. But Jabari is just a little more of an alpha who's going to find the ball. And you're right, Jalen, you were talking about the new guys. At this point, there's only a couple guys who I think can really elevate us. And like, Jalen's one of them. Like, if Jalen can become the 12 to 15 point scorer consistently every night, I honestly think we need that in the SEC, because Johan's not, I hope he does, but he's not going to give us that at that 4 position.
One point I want to go back to real quickly, just I'm enjoying looking at all the stats sheets without having to think about the game as much.
Yeah.
KD's averaging 30% from 3. That's pretty decent last year. I think last year he was in lower in the 20s. So I asked him to get a little better. I asked the whole team to get above 30%. So that's just a quick note. With Jalen, you made a great, interesting point. What players going forward can elevate us? I think we know Jonai Broom theoretically could figure something out. We saw the Kessler into SEC play, big jump. We still, I think we're seeing some flashes from Jonai, and that's what's so frustrating to see the inconsistency. You said Jalen. I know you've been with Jalen this entire time, and that at any moment, maybe he does break through. I think we know we got a dude in Wendell Green Jr. that is hopefully, as long as he's healthy, gonna be a dude. Who else is on this roster that, like, if we are gonna be good, is it Alan Flanagan? Is he the only guy left, really? Like, I think we know we have Katie Johnson. I don't think we can expect too much. Like, he's gonna get it when he gets it. He's gonna have these crazy Katie moments, but maybe that's my own feeling that Alan Flanagan might be the only guy left, that our only hope that he could turn into something. I'm seeing some flashes this year, and you know how bad I got burnt last year with Alan Flanagan. So I this is coming from a place of desperation to say that we might be on Alan Flanagan watch just to see if he can elevate us. How do you look at this game? Do you agree? Do you feel like this guy might be our only hope?
I was thinking as I was watching Trey Donaldson just be our best player on the floor at times tonight, how little we really know. And that's what college sports, like, that's why it's so fun, I think, that we will have every year we do this podcast, we're going to have some horrific takes. Anybody who talks about college sports is going to run into that because it's so unpredictable. It's amazing that we've seen about a third of the year now is over. And I'm like over here looking at the roster from the box score, like, I don't know. I don't know who. I mean, I personally have seen Jalen score 20, and he's, he hit a 3 to start the game tonight. Like, he just seems like he's in a really good place, but he keeps, like, I'm worried about his shoulder. Like, if he was in a lot of pain, and I don't know. So I hope he can.
I've seen this man break his tooth in half and come back for a second half. So
he's had some terrible injury. He's had some bad. Anyway, so Jalen's number 1 for me. But if you're making me pick somebody else, it's like, it's Flanagan. I mean, or the new guys who gets worse and worse.
Degrading. I can't believe at this point in the season it's getting worse.
So Flanagan did, again, I want to just double down on that. He did look pretty good at times. He defended really well. Like, if I had to pick one guy on this team, him and Trey defended their tails off and weren't getting driven by. There were too many guys on our team that were getting driven by tonight, and I didn't see that happen very much to Flanagan. I think Flanagan's doing a really good job with his role. And look, if Wendell's out at all, and if Jalen's out at all, Flanagan all of a sudden is going to become one of the top options on this team offensively to get shots. So
can we push him? Can we push him in any way, you think? Can we ask him to drive more? Can we put the ball in his hands more? Are we already putting, I mean, he went 1-6 from 3 tonight, which is not great. He's been shooting more efficiently from 3. Like, what part of his game do you think we can push to get over that hump, to take him from a guy that's averaging what, like, I haven't looked at this thing, but maybe like 7-8 points a game, to a guy that can average 12, a guy that can get us 15 every once in a while? That would be real nice.
Well, again, and this is where you got to be careful with stats, right? Because
averaging 8 points a game right now.
Jalen averaged double digits in that year where we weren't good, because he was getting a lot of shots and Jabari wasn't there yet. So, like, Flanagan, if Wendell's out and Jalen's out, Flanagan's going to score double digits. I'm just telling you, like, he's going to get the shots. How efficient are you with it? He had a charge tonight again. Like,
no,
he had, but again, overall,
that's where if you push him too hard, you wonder if he goes back to what happened last year, where he's taking charges and making turnovers, and he's playing maximum within himself right now. And you push him a little more to be the kind of guy, the NBA guy people predicted, and then you grow back into that. So that's good to know he took another charge.
Yeah. So Flanagan,
not good to know, bad to know, but it's important information.
Well, Flanagan also took a charge, got called for a foul on an and one when he got literally shoved to the ground. So that happened. And just Flanagan, if you're looking for just any bright spot, he hit a long, it was called a 3 on the floor, but his foot was on the line. It was basically a 3. So he hit a couple long range shots tonight. But yeah, like, it's a great point. And you said Wendell, you know me, I'm pro Wendell, but, like, do we not? I mean, we still have to see him do it for a whole SEC schedule, right? Like we didn't see that last year.
We do. I can't. I thought we would like have some of these other guys advancing, and the argument would be like getting it out of his hands a little more to these other guys. Now it's my argument's going to be we are living and dying by him getting out there and being a baller and creating something.
But I will say tonight, I mean, I know Wendell is probably the most controversial guy on this team for fans, like because I just think.
Oh no, I bet KD is.
I think Wendell generates more conversation because
maybe
some people see him and his height and be like, man, he makes these shots. He's confident. He's kind of a baller. He's got more like swagger than our team has had this year for sure. But man, you see him. On one hand, I'm impressed with our team tonight for really coming close to getting a big road win without him. It also is very scary to watch our team without him. Does that make sense? Like, we shot the ball well tonight.
We might have gotten lucky threatening to play him, and they didn't scout around. Hey, they don't have their guy at point guard. You know, you wonder going into Washington if they're going to scout that and say we're going against Trey Donaldson and Chance Western-Zep, and they clearly don't have a point guard. We're going after him, and they didn't kind of adjust to that in this game. Maybe not. I don't know.
They did. No, it's a great point by you for not watching the game. USC attacked our point guards all night. They knew Wendell was gimpy, and then when he was out, they pressed us. They pressed us a lot of the game, and we turned it over some, and we looked very uncomfortable at times. And again, no shame in that. But so it was so for what I felt watching this game, I wanted us to pull this out so bad because we need a shot in the arm, right? Like, and this would have been a gutty Auburn Bruce Pearl win to go on the road and beat this USC team with, Wendell can't play and Trey Donaldson's playing big minutes and hitting shot double digits, second leading scorer tonight. It would have been, oh yeah, we're okay. We're good at it. Like, we're okay. Like, we're good. But now you lose. And now it's like, either way, after this Washington game, the team's going to have to step back and just say, all right, like, game on. We're about to go through a tough league and play 18 games, and we're going to see what we're made of because it's not going to be easy at all with the way we're playing right now.
So let's imagine Wendell is still gimpy, which I assume he will be by next game. What are we looking at into this next game against Washington? What is the strategy here? You're still worried about Jalen too. I'm going to assume that he does play. Who are we pushing? What are we doing? How do we beat Washington without Wendell Green?
We do a lot of so. Let me make sure I don't sound stupid on the podcast. Let me make sure I know who Washington basketball coach is. I think it's Mike.
I'm just curious what kind of we've built so much around Wendell. I'm just curious what our strategy is going to be. Like we talked about just a minute ago with Adam Flanagan, if we're going to push him to do more, if we're going to, I'm going to be really curious to hear more about Chance going into that game. We're going to play Chance more minutes and just hope he doesn't screw it up, or, like I've been afraid of a little bit, we get a turbo situation where we ruin this kid's psyche by trying to push too hard because we need him. So then I mean, maybe that's part of the reason he didn't play today. I don't know. Maybe I'm just,
I was encouraged. I think it's easy to forget last year that Zep started every game at point guard and Wendell played more, but we played a lot of basketball last year successfully with a pass first point guard. Trey is that. Now Trey has a little more game and shot making ability than I thought at this point in his career he would have. I think I'm pretty comfortable with him playing half the minutes. If it was me, it would probably be a Zep Trey 50-50 kind of thing, and Zep play some off the ball too.
And what about the two? So KD plays more minutes at the two. We trying to put Chance for 10 minutes at the two, or are we moving people around?
I would be going a 3-man with KD, Chris Moore, and Flanagan. Those would be your 3 guys on the wing.
All right.
But I would think they would play Chance. If Wendell was out and not playing at all against Washington, I would think you slide Chance in at least as a depth piece on the wing, probably. Because Zep looked okay. He's a 6th-year player. He's been around. But, like, to get shuffled in there the way it happened tonight was not easy against that USC team at his size. And there were some good things that happened with him running the show. So I think, again, it's as bad as it feels right now, and it feels like we're just teetering on this edge. You better be glad we have a full roster of options to play the way we need to play defensively with that kind of energy. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
it's not pretty, but at least if we have one or two guys out, we've got 8 or 9 or 10 guys that can still play. It may not be good, but we can play the style we want to play, even if we are down a couple guys. That's where the depth helps.
Silver lining. Wendell's out, people hurt, changing all these rotations around. Are we learning? Are we learning about these players? Are we building on something? Is this something we can build on going into SEC play, the beginning of SEC play? Is this the opposite situation from last year where we came in crazy hot and didn't adjust at the end because we were just trying to get it through? Are we gonna be tinkering with this thing, and can we get this engine to turn over by early enough for it to matter?
This is where you have, well, okay, let's define that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think people have quickly forgotten. I think when we talked on preseason, we were saying, maybe Auburn's like a top, maybe they can fight for that, to try to be in that top 4 conversation. But I think most people were very aware that this was going to be kind of an NCAA tournament team, but maybe not a ring team. Now we at Auburn, we're proud on this podcast. We always want to win rings because we've shown we can win all of them, except for the national championship, which was stolen from us. So we're always going to have that, but like college basketball is so much bigger than that, right? You're going to reset for the SEC championship regular season. You're going to reset for the SEC tournament. Hopefully, we're going to reset for the NCAA tournament. But I'm more concerned. I forget, you said something that triggered that rant, but just like,
can we tinker enough to get this engine turned over in time?
in time. I don't know what that looks like. I mean,
now I'm starting to worry about NCAA stuff. I know maybe that's
right.
being over dramatic, but I think we talked about what 20 wins is what we need. And so you
Well,
worry.
I worry. I think that's fair. Now, Ryan, I want to shout out Ryan, sent us a message while we're recording. One of our lovely co-hosts, and
Lovely co-host, Ryan.
that's one of I just say lovely. He said people on, well, this is his first problem. Ryan's on the bunker. He needs to get off the bunker immediately.
I am not allowed on the bunker.
He said
that's another story.
People on Twitter and the bunker saying this program is in a free fall. Where we won the SEC last year, idiots. People are so dumb. It's just one down year. And it's not a down year yet. I think that's the thing everybody has to remember. You've got to play 20 more games. Like, let's just let it. We lost a game on the road that it was a toss-up game to win. This betting spread was an even game. And we lost because we turned it over 23 times. We haven't turned it over 23 times in 4 years. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. The